You will sleep better than you have ever slept. You've never been this relaxed. Are you ready to change your life? I'm Rusty Diamond, certified hypnotist. You don't need to leave your house. You can stay in your bed. You can stay in your favorite chair. You just need a computer or your phone. You can get a hold of me. Stay at home. I'll make your life better.
Hypnosisisgreat.com.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Oh, Miss Rusty. What is up, everybody? It is Tuesday, March 26th, here in Pennsylvania on the podcast, the Public Access Podcast. Now in Pennsylvania, the Podcast, Pennsylvania, PA. Lots of PA here. So, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you are listening to this show and you want to know what I or my guests look like, or what maybe we're sharing on the screen, go on to YouTube or Rumble and it'll be on there. You search the Public Access Podcast or Rusty Diamond. There's a lot of Rusty Diamonds now, and it's kind of fucking weird. There used to just be one. Now there's like 7. I don't know who you people are, but I don't know. You're trying to take my stuff. So I guess there can be another Rusty Diamond in the world, maybe 7. Well, that's okay. Maybe you're watching the show and you go, I just want to hear this guy's voice, and I want to hear this content from his awesome guests, but I don't want to look at him. You can go anywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can type in the Public Access Podcast on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network, and you can find it. There is a podcast called Public Access Podcast that was started after my podcast, but they're not around anymore. So anyway, this is my I'm bitter today, I guess, about the non-public access podcast, public access podcast, and the other Rusty Diamonds out there. So someone that is not my name and has their own podcast and uh, is not Rusty Diamond and is not um, the Public Access Podcast. It is my special guest right here, right now. My special guest right here and right now is Felicity Azura. Thank you for being here. How you doing?
Good. Your intro and your theme song just captures your personality so well. And I have so many questions about you being a hypnotist, because I would assume that we would have overlapping circles because I'm an acrobat. I would assume that hypnotists and acrobats, there's like a Venn diagram for us.
Between hypnotists and acrobats?
Yeah.
Wait, do those?
I would assume that at, big events, special events like carnivals or whatnot, you would see both
Oh,
hypnotists and acrobats in the same room.
gotcha. Okay, yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, totally. There is an overlap there then. Um, and I think I don't know, because I mean, 'cause I do the other kind. I don't do the stage stuff, the stage
Oh,
hypnosis. I could, but I don't know. I like hanging out here in this world, the Zoom world, but the acrobatics, wrestling's like acrobatics, so we're kind of Venn diagramming in that with lots of flying around and
Mhm.
how'd you get in acrobatics? What's your
I started
acrobatics
my
background?
acrobatic journey in February of 2018, which is exactly 1 month before I started my professional cuddling journey. And so there are some venues in my area that I really want to do performances for, and they have lube wrestling.
Oh
It is
God, I
like watching people wrestle in this kiddie pool with, I don't know, 50 gallons of lube. Like,
yeah,
I've
it's
yet to do that myself, but I'm open to.
so well. I hope it's clothes you'll never want to have again. Um, you can wear them that day, and then you probably want to get rid of them. And I don't know if garbage is enough for it. I did one time. It was supposed to be pudding wrestling, like Jello pudding, but they found out the Jello pudding was too expensive, so they used watered down chocolate syrup, like Hershey syrup,
Okay, okay.
and yeah, and then they started dumping Bud Light over the I don't know if you call them wrestlers, but the women in the kiddie pool that were I guess wrestling. And then yeah, and so I stayed out of it as much as I could. I was the referee in that, and
Oh,
but I mean those clothes, everything around there, and then there was like a party that we were having above the bar in this apartment, and so
mhm.
there's all these trails of this brown
Oh
drip
gosh. So
of
it's gonna be on the walls and on the furniture for years to come.
yeah, yeah. So
Ooh.
make sure you have it contained, and then the delousing I guess would be the technical term maybe for that, to make sure that there's an area for that where before you get into back into the regular world. But
Hmm.
what what area are you living in? Where is that?
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So are
Okay.
there other things that you're a referee for, or is it just chocolate wrestling?
I mean regular like professional wrestling, but like
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was just a chocolate wrestling one time and I learned my lesson. I was probably 6 months in. This was like early 2011,
Okay.
and I learned my lesson. I was working for this guy that was a juggalo, um, and I almost got killed that night. Um, someone tried to kill me.
Oh
Two people
gosh.
tried to kill me, and that was interesting. And then the other time that someone tried was also a juggalo. Um,
Tell me you were paid for this referee gig?
I was paid. It
Good.
wasn't great,
Okay.
but I was paid. And but okay, so you're in San Francisco, so there's some places to be able to have a show of that nature. Or I bet if there's wrestling promotions down there that would maybe want to pair up with something like that. I know there's Hood Slam down there out of Oakland that is kind of a big thing that maybe uh interested in some acrobatics around with it. But I don't know if they'd be the lube wrestling could be different. It could be a
Mhm.
different kind of deal. But so do you put on shows?
I
Uh,
have emceed once in my life, and that was approximately 1 month ago. So, a little backstory in October of 2023, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do that thing that I've been saying I'm going to do, and I am going to start my own dance production company. And I got the EIN, I got the business bank account, I made the, business email, and uh, I got my little business credit card. I should probably get a business debit card, but um, I knew that I wanted my show, my debut show, to be in February. And I don't know if you're a numbers person, but I founded my company on 10/23/23, and then my debut show was on 2/24/24. My boyfriend's a mathematician, so maybe he'll have some comment on that. But anywho, that was my first time emceeing. It was a show that I produced with my own money, and I did not seek any corporate sponsorships because I'm against sponsorship. It's all Patreon for me, baby. And so
Okay.
I basically funded my fundraiser through professional cuddling and sex work. I mean, my parents did buy the little champagne bottles for my VIP guests, but for the most part, I funded everything. Like I paid the venue, I paid the performers, I paid the raffle people, I paid the people setting up the chair. Like it came out of my pockets. And
Yeah.
there's a certain pride in producing and emceeing your own shows and not, begging Wells Fargo or something for a corporate sponsorship.
Right. And so then, so the money you're able to make back from it was from people, the ticket sales and the VIP experience.
Yeah,
And so
ticket sales.
what was that VIP experience like? What was the extra bonus for getting
So
VIP?
instead of just a normal folding chair, you get a table, either a round one or a rectangular one, and you would have a choice between champagne or apple cider, and you would get 2 donuts because the VIP tables, they're seating for two. So presumably you have a friend whom you can bring with you. My mother bought tickets for her and my dad. My sister bought tickets for her and her husband. And so the VIP seating is wheelchair accessible, and my brother-in-law is in a wheelchair. So they got seats very close to the stage. My parents did it, and they're like, "Can you, you know, after they arrived to the venue, they're like, "Can you like get us some VIP seating so we can, just want to sit closer to your sister and her husband?" I'm like, "Y'all didn't pay for the VIP tickets. Like, thank you for buying the champagne bottles, but that was out of the goodness of your heart." Yeah.
Yeah,
I love my parents, but I'm not going to give them special treatment at my fundraiser.
right. And so what were you fundraising for? You're fundraising for the dance for the dancing?
I produced my acrobatic fundraiser for 2 different organizations. They're not 501c3s, which a lot of people assume. They don't have that, taxation status. But ever since I would say April of 2020, I've been very committed to volunteering for local sex worker rights organizations. There's
Yeah,
one in Oakland called Bay Area Worker Support. Nice mug. You got a SpongeBob
right.
mug. I just have one of
I
those plain little initial mugs. And
I
there's this San Francisco organization that I love volunteering for, and they're called Rad Mission Neighbors. So at first I was like, am I going to fundraise for one or the other? But then I was like, what the heck? Let's fundraise for both of them because they both help out predominantly homeless single mothers in the Bay Area. So we raised over $400.
cool.
That was from like Eventbrite donations through raffle. Um, and another thing was that people could, throw cash on the stage while performers are doing their art, and all of the stage tips would be donated to these respective organizations. And I I just found it so amusing. Like, what if we raised $420? But no, we raised 426. And um, yeah, I don't even smoke, but I love making 420. It
That
was it was a huge learning experience, and I hope it becomes an annual production.
Yeah, I hope it would. And like that's a great amount to get for, like you got your first try of doing a fundraiser. There's a lot that goes into a fundraiser, and then the fact that you also emceed it. Like I don't know, that's a hell of a
Hmm.
lot of jobs. That's a lot of jobs right there. And yeah, do it, yeah, once a year then and get that back next year. So then do you have people that are like doing acrobatics or on poles or something,
Hmm.
or kind of whatever they're best at, or
Yeah.
they able to switch, or do they have rings or anything, or like what
No
what
one was
what kind
on
what kind of
Lyra Hoop, but I tried to have as wide of a variety as possible. So the first performer got this custom made apparatus, which they call a looking glass. It's really cool. And we had several people dancing on poles. We had one burlesque performer. We had two poets do poetry reading, and I had one singer.
what kind of
And,
singer?
normally
What
these variety shows, they're like, 90% pole dancers and then maybe 5% someone doing a routine on a chair. And then like 1% is somebody dancing with fans, which is great. Like, raise that money for charity. But I, as a multimedia artist, as a filmmaker, as a poet, as an essayist, da 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 da, I want these variety shows to not only raise a bunch of money for fundraise or for charities, I want them to also showcase a wide breadth of talent. Like, there's this one quarterly fundraiser in my area that I've been performing for years now. It's a fundraiser for AIDS life cycle. And I did what a majority of the people do. I would dance on the poles in the gay bar to raise money. But then after a while, I'm like, okay, I think I think it's great that we're raising money for AIDS research, but I think there should be more variety. So I decided to switch from pole dancing to dancing with my long silk fans. And
what do you
there's
mean?
so
Are
much
the
talent in the Bay Area. People should be exposed to as much of it as possible. I am so blessed to live in an area where there's so much talent. So, but I still, seldom see, professional hula hoopers and, silk fan dancers at all of these acrobatic fundraising shows. And I'm like, that needs to change. I need to like contact my friends and be like, hey, I know you can do that. I know you can do that. You can do that. Let's all like go to this, quarterly fundraiser for AIDS life cycle, because it's unpaid. Most fundraising,
Sure.
the performers don't get paid. And so it's like, at the very least, we should be able to showcase our, you know, talent that doesn't get highlighted as often as pole dancing.
Yeah. And yeah, because there's a lot more. What so like you said a silk fan. Are those like things that are like where you put your leg in it and you sort of like spin it around, like am
Oh,
I thinking of something
I'm
else,
not
or like
talking
where
about those like really cool yo-yos, but that's another talent that I want to see more often in the Bay Area. Like, there's over 1 million people who live here, and a lot of them are artists. Like, I really want to hire one of those yo-yo artists for a future show that I produce.
did, did you ever have those back in school, back in like grade school, the
Yes.
people that would come in and do the
Uh-huh.
yo-yo tricks and shit, like
Yeah, and then kids would pay like $30 for it, but then
right.
they'll lose it in 1 hour at recess, and then I'm like, I
And
feel so bad that you had it for 1 hour. Oh.
they come back next year and buy them again. It's It's a crazy thing. Yeah, I mean, yo-yos would be cool. What am I don't know what I'm thinking of. They're like these silk things that hang from the ceiling, and it's sort of like a U shape. And then, you know what I'm, then you can,
Oh,
like, there's
circus
usually two
hammock.
of them.
I love dancing on circus hammock.
Okay, so that's what they're called. So it's not, that's different than a silk fan.
Oh
What's a
my
silk
gosh, there are
fan?
so many things you could do with silk. You got like aerial fabric, you got circus hammock, you got like um the little flow art square where it's like I know the onomatopoeia is probably not helpful, but there's like silk poi, there's like the silk fans, there's just, and then there's people who invent like silk contraptions that you can attach to other apparatus or apparatuses. Like
Okay.
the people who make silk that attach to dance poles. So like a circus hammock with a stripper pole, like there's so much you could do
Oh
with
shit.
silks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so then you have each of those kind of going, and then you said you do filmmaking as well. So then is this being filmed and then edited, or you have someone else doing that for you, or is that something that also falls into your wheelhouse? Or
I am a video editor and audio editor. Alas, I am a podcaster, but I I got into filmmaking very seriously in, what was it? I think 2022. I don't know about 2021. But anywho, I am not a dancer who enjoys dance competitions. I do dancing because it's fun and it's good for my health. I don't really care about competing with other people and like the titles and the accolades. And, you know, you can be a good dance teacher without, I firmly believe you can be a good dance teacher without ever competing in competitions. Maybe that's a controversial opinion, but um, a lot of dance competitions are in person. Everybody has to show up at the same venue at the same time. But starting in 2020, I noticed a bunch of virtual dance competitions popping up on my social media. And I was like, this is a bit different. Maybe I will enter some dance competitions because um, with the virtual ones, you get to have so much creative freedom. You can choose where to film, you can choose how to edit. And it's so basically, if you mess up, you can, you know, re-record, you can redo it.
okay.
I like that because, you know, like many dancers, I have made mistakes on stage, but, you know, no one else noticed.
Right.
And
Well,
um,
I don't think anyone else will probably know that you made a mistake. My guess is probably only you made a mistake. You know you made a mistake. I think whoever's out there watching wouldn't know the nuances, and that's the thing that could drive you crazy too, I bet. I know it does for, like, for wrestling or for comedy or something. Like, you fuck something up, as long as there's a very small chance that the people watching you are going to notice. Or
mhm.
unless it was something like something crazy you saw or something crazy that happened.
Thankfully, I've
Um,
never had disastrous mistakes like I sprained an ankle or tore an ACL. Um, the problem with competitions is that, well, virtual competitions, it's like I don't get to look at the judges in the eye. I don't get face-to-face interaction. It's just a very cold email, you know, a week later, a month later, that's like, you scored this on that, you scored this on that, you scored this on that. And, you know, I don't get to see the other performers and be like, you know what, that person did execute that move really well. I can see why they placed higher than me. I just get these really cold anonymous emails that are like, you place last in this, you place last in that. And I'm like, oh gosh. And so it like sucks the joy out of filmmaking. And it's also why I hate the grading system in, you know, public school and in college, because it just like sucks the joy out of learning. And so I eventually decided, you know what, I'm tired of investing so much money into a filmographer, a place to shoot the video, da 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 da, only for anonymous people to just tell me I placed last in whatever category I chose.
Oh wait, so I mean, I was just talking about just doing it
Mhm.
just to have footage for yourself. And you
Oh
know
yeah.
who wins competitions is the person, well, like especially now, whoever the person who wins the competition now in 2024 is the same person who wins contests on TV or whatever. It's the person with the biggest social media following. It's the person who's going to win.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you want that person to win? Because that's the person that's going to bring you the most eyes back to
Mhm.
your own thing. And so, I mean, competitions are kind of bullshit. And like, it's so subjective too. You know, someone might really like apples and you're an orange, and what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm already kind of doomed for it before I even started. But yeah, I mean, yeah, competitions are pointless. I mean, they're good to get yourself out there, I guess, maybe, but there's nothing like winning one is, could also be done with a lot of things. Could be done with the yeah, bribe or because yeah, you have a nice social media following or whatever, or um, I don't know.
I'm not trying to diss other dancers who love competitions because I'm sure for them it's as much of an art form for them as it is for me. And one of the few mediums that I don't dabble in is music. I am not a musician. Um, I cannot play a guitar to save my life. Um, but I have a lot of respect for musicians because learning how to play an instrument, that shit is hard. And then singing with the instrument is hard. And then learning sound mixing, because I will say, learning how to edit podcast audio, it's time consuming, but I don't think it's anywhere near as hard as, mastering sound for music. And so I have so much respect for independent artists who are like, fuck the mainstream, I'm gonna do my own shit.
Yeah,
That's
doing
the
it all.
attitude I bring into podcasting. And so I take a lot of pride and joy in choosing indie music for competition pieces because it's great if I win a gold medal. It's not everything, it'd be nice, but it's also good to highlight an independent musician who does not get as many opportunities as, like you said, somebody with a million followers on Instagram.
Right. Which, yeah, I mean, it's yeah, great. Marketing's crazy. Marketing's a
Hmm.
weird game. And but I mean, yeah, it's I don't know, music mastering is there's a lot to that. And yeah, like I mean, podcast I am not one to say that I go and I mix my podcast afterwards or edit it because I know how much time consuming amount of life that is. And I don't know. I feel like then, if I listen back to it, then it's not going to be the same to me afterwards. And I'm going to take too much time picking it apart. And so when you're doing yours, are you taking out the ums, the ahs, the
Yes,
pauses and
I edit like a madman. I will trim something that's an hour long raw to something that's 25 minutes. That is my editing
okay.
style.
Yeah. And that's what I hear. I mean, like a lot of people that do coaching for podcasts, that's a thing that a lot of them say to do is to go for that, get rid of all of it. And you can get rid of a lot of the talking too. There's, only get the points that are like the really strong ones and just kind of take out the rest. And, especially yeah, with the ums and ahs, there's, I don't know. But then, so are yours then audio or are yours audio and video?
I prefer audio only because it's less editing on my part. I already go ham
Yeah.
with editing for audio. I don't want to go ham for video editing as well.
And then you got people going, uh, and then, doing Oh, okay. And then yeah, they're over here, and yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun to have to do that as well. So then, where'd your podcast come from? What were you doing where you're going, hey, I'm gonna podcast?
Honestly, I listened to very few podcasts before I thought for myself I should have a podcast. But, you know, I was 20 when I started my podcast. I'm 25 now. I have listened to so many hours of podcasts since then, and it has influenced um, my style in every way, from the planning stage to the editing stage. And when you listen to 5 years of my life, I think the growth is noticeable. The problem is, for a lot of people, they will listen to one episode of a podcast and then be like, I'm either going to continue listening or I'm not going to listen to this podcast ever again. And people most often will pick your very first episode, the one where you have the least amount of life experience and audio editing
Oh
experience. And I'm
yeah,
like, don't judge people by the podcast episode that they uploaded 5 years ago. Judge me by what I put out last year or this year.
yeah, yeah. Like my first one was like 2013, and it was we each had a microphone plugged into a computer that we brought over, and we're recording just in. I had like a sunroom, um, and we were recording in that, and it sounded shitty, and it was just audio, and yeah, I mean it was. But then yeah, that's the first episode on there. When you go to episode one, it's like that's what that is. It's like, well, shit. But yeah, don't go to that one. Just start with something recent, and then that's what I tell people. But then not everyone is just gonna, yeah, go and like just start at the newest one. They're gonna do some scrolling back. Like I'm gonna be invested in this. I'm going right to the beginning. But
Mhm.
but then some things like it's not good. Like there's this show I like to watch, Trailer Park Boys, that was I don't know, it was a thing, but like the first season, it's like kind of hard to watch if you don't know the characters. So I always tell people to, watch some of season 4, and then if you like it, then go back and start at the beginning. And then you're like watching, 1 or 2 episodes only, and not really getting too much. Be like, okay, I can see why people watch this. But if you watch episode 1, you're going to be like, what's the hype of this? What's the hype of this? And what was your episode 1? What were you doing on episode 1?
I just talked about my journey, because one of the most common questions you get as a professional cuddler is, how did you
Right,
get into this? Like, most
right.
people don't, graduate high school and then say, you know what, I'm just going to be a professional cuddler for the rest of my life. And so I talk about, being a broke 18-year-old, hating the minimum wage jobs that I worked when I was 18. And then I matched with someone on a dating app who told me that they're a professional cuddler, and my mind was blown. And then within 1 hour, I had signed up for probably the most recognizable international cuddle website, which I'm no longer using because the moderator is a dick. Actually, most of the memes I put on TikTok nowadays are just mocking the moderator, but they're funny, okay? They're funny. I know out of context it sounds like I'm being rude, but this moderator is so bad at managing the most recognizable cuddle website in the world. And I'm like, for a lot of people, this is the only website they know about that has professional cuddlers. So you have to make it as good as possible, because
Right.
the cuddle websites that experienced cuddle therapists vouch for, they I mean, they do have a lot of, mainstream attention, but it's still not the most recognizable in the world. And so
Yeah.
I I only criticize the most recognizable international website because I want it to be better. it's not like I want them to suck. I want them to stop sucking. And so I critique, and I'm far from the only person who has worked for that website and has a bunch of critiques. And it'd be nice if the moderator would listen to the professional cuddlers, because we're the reason why they exist. We're the reason why they make money. They're not the
Right.
one contacting clients and being like, hey, here's my address, here's my phone number, let's meet for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever.
So then, see, so this is something I figured that on a lot of your podcasts, and you've kind of got into all the backstory of the cuddle arc of your life, and so I didn't want to because if I say how did you start this, you could probably have a number of times where you've explained that, and it's kind of a you can go back. So if I was gonna ask that, you would go and tell them to look where for that answer.
Yeah.
Or and like, so were you in kind of the first wave of the cuddle culture? I don't know what the correct terminology is,
That's
because I
fine.
remember seeing a thing online and I was like, like, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 5 years ago, and then it was like, what? That's a thing. And but yeah, I don't know.
The industry does not get that much airtime on TV or radio, da 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 da. And despite having been in this industry for only 5 years, I've seen it change so, so much. And on one hand, I do want there to be more awareness of my industry, but awareness does not necessarily mean that the working conditions improve. That just means the layman knows it exists. And I want the working conditions to improve. I want everyone to not have to worry about the longevity of their job, the security. And I wish podcasters were more like you, in that they would ask me questions that they think I seldom get, because I'm not trying to diss other
No,
podcasters, but a lot of them are like, oh, what do you do when someone doesn't want to respect your boundaries? And I'm like, we are getting into some very, very triggering territory. These are some treacherous waters.
Right. And I've answered this on 17 other podcasts where they're asking the same things. And yeah, I mean, that's something that I usually try to look out for when because I don't know, but then I have some people that are like, oh, hey, I want like, give me a whole list of talking points, and like, okay, well, maybe. But it's also, I don't know, because then, like, someone asked me, I'm like, okay, I've talked about this on this podcast, like, why did I get to be a hypnotist? Oh, well, if you go back, like, I can tell you here, like, if you want to know more, I'll get into a little bit, but then, like, I'll talk about it a lot over here on this one, and I don't want, like, to have to if you're that interested in me, like, you can go and check it out somewhere else, and um then hopefully give that person a little bit of the rub to check out their podcast. And so then, I mean, yeah, because I mean, like, so are you having, like, is this like at your place, or do you have an office, or what's kind of your style, or is that like thing something? And that's probably a common question too, but that was
It is a
something that
common question. I don't
yeah,
have
and
an office. I cannot afford more than one rent in San Francisco. And
good
so
point.
I normally meet people in their homes, or I get a hotel. I mean, I have cuddled people inside of Airbnbs before, even though it's not within their, terms and services to conduct business. But,
Uh-huh.
you know, Airbnb is a very unethical company. Not saying that hotel
Right.
chains are ethical. they're also very unethical in many ways. But I think with Airbnb, every time I make a booking, even for personal reasons, I wonder to myself, is this my final booking? Is this the last one I take before my account gets terminated? I have received negative reviews from Airbnb owners before. Obviously, I don't think I deserved them. And
What'd you get negative reviews
oh
for?
gosh, like
Is it stupid shit? Or is
stupid
it
shit,
or is it
man.
like you were taking a knife to the furniture and
Dude.
smashing TVs and throwing furniture out the window or
Oh
something?
gosh, I would just go to
Or
a rage room for that. But I remember once I booked this, South Pacific-esque little cottage in a backyard. And the owner was white. He was just a white guy, really fascinated with South Pacific culture. And so I was like, oh, this is a very interesting background or backyard. I would love to rent this to take photos with my friends. And so um, I interacted with him in person. He would be like, "Oh, people rent my place all the time to take photos. Like, here's a chair. Like, let me move some furniture around because I want you to get some good photos. Like, let me be helpful. I'll turn on the glass fire." And that was very, accommodating of him to do that. But I guess I didn't put back all the furniture in their original spots, which I thought was really nitpicky, especially since when I had arrived, and mind you, I did not arrive too early. I arrived on time. I arrived and the bedroom was still dirty from the past tenant. And like, oh,
oh,
hi, kitty. And
that
like,
shithead.
for the most part, he did not seem that apologetic for the room being dirty. And it's like, I
Weird.
could tell this person had sex in this room. Like, there were
Oh,
period blood stains. Like,
dirty like
and
that.
as
Okay.
someone who menstruates, like, I know the difference between a period blood stain from someone who is just sleeping and someone who got fucked on their period. And I'm like, this
Right.
person got fucked on their period, which,
Uh,
get your orgasm, but I did
right.
not want to see that. I did not want to see that. And he was like, oops, oopsie daisies. And he left me a bad review because I, quote unquote, didn't put all the furniture where it originally was after I got my photos taken. And I'm like, buddy.
Whoa. And because so was this like you pulled back the sheets or was this like
No, it was
uh,
like these people were, they had the towel down, there were no blankets on the bed. Like, they were not
just
sleeping on their period. They were
yeah.
fucking.
And he just left it out like that. Like
It
no,
was there when I arrived, and I did not
wow.
arrive too early. I arrived on time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be that's kind of weird. Okay. So I mean, so is there ever stuff with like yeah, 'cause I mean I guess I don't know, because there's the rating system, but there's not really that with hotels. Um uh but yeah, so then okay, so have you had any of that like man, like did people when your clients with that, do they know about your acrobatics or anything? Has that ever
Oh,
come up? Do
I
you ever
am an
talk
open book,
you
and
like
I
talking about
know,
whatever you're doing?
I mean, it could be detrimental to my business, but I have some regulars who they they pay me a handsome amount every single month. So I can afford to take risks with marketing. I can afford to be super out there and like talk about all these random subjects on podcasts. I think most professional cuddlers, they don't have outside of the box marketing, which is fine. Their marketing is theirs, my marketing is mine. And
Right.
it's just, I don't think the industry will progress if everybody has the same marketing. If all of us talk to journalists the same way, I don't really see progress. So we have to some degree, take risks when we talk to other people about our jobs to make to make room for progress.
Yeah. And so then do you get crossovers then that will come over and see you if you're doing you know, acrobatics or whatever you're doing elsewhere, like something else you're doing? Or do they say, "Oh, hey, I was listening to your podcast and I noticed whatever," or does that ever come up or
Oh, there are crossovers every now and then. Like my Patreon is primarily for my podcast and my writing career, but I've literally had cuddle clients be like, "Can I just pay you via Patreon?" And I'm like, "I have a $150 tier on Patreon." And so Patreon also has chargeback protection, which so many payment apps like Venmo and Cash App don't have. So I'm like, please pay me via Patreon because I know you cannot just rescind that. And
yeah.
I've had cuddle clients buy tickets to my fundraiser, which was on February 24th. They did not show up though. I spoke with
That's okay.
the front door person and I was like, oh, I really wanted them to go, but oh well,
They'll come next year.
maybe next year.
Next year. So what's the next year gonna be, or do you have to get to the Patreon to read about it or to find out what? Because I mean, it's what, March? You got 11 months. You got to start
Yeah.
getting ready for that next one.
The thing is, so many festivities happen in February. For example, there's Lunar New Year. And I don't know if Lunar New Year conflicted with ticket sales, but the owner of the venue was like, great show, but maybe don't choose the same weekend as Lunar New Year. And I'm like, the Lunar New Year changes every single year. That's the whole
Yeah.
point. There's the Gregorian calendar, there's the lunar calendar, solar calendar. I actually talk about calendars in the most recent writing. I
Oh,
uploaded to
okay.
Patreon. It's like a tiny little paragraph sentence, but in my most recent writing, I talked about being a third culture kid, which is a label that I found during my teens, but I kid you not, it wasn't until I finished writing my little think piece did I find out that there's a Wikipedia page for it. And I'm like, it would have been helpful if I came across this like yesterday
Yeah.
or a year ago or a decade ago. But oh well, that's like water under the bridge. And I spoke about how I am a person who, well, I'm a person of color, but I am a person who was raised in a country that neither of my parents grew up in. And it's a very different experience from other people. For example, my boyfriend. He's like one of the few non-TCKs I've dated. Like he's indigenous
What's a
Chamorro.
TCK?
Oh, a third culture kid is
Oh,
someone
third culture kid. Okay.
who spent their childhood in a country or countries that their parents or their ancestors are not indigenous to.
Okay. Say that again. So it's their parents were born in another country and moved to the country and had the kid.
Yeah, so my dad was born in Vietnam. He's Chinese Vietnamese. My mom was born in China. She is Chinese.
Okay. And
And
then
then
they moved here and they had you
yeah,
in
they had me here.
California somewhere.
And my boyfriend is indigenous Chamorro. He's a Pacific Islander, and he got to grow up in Guam, where his ancestors are from. He got to take, Chamorro history lessons as a kid. I mean, he didn't really pick up on the language, but if you want to pick up on the Chamorro language, Guam is the best place to pick it up. And so
Sure.
there are so many experiences that I have that he doesn't have, and vice versa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then you got to write about that and so then were your parents, were they speaking English when they came over here or?
My dad did not know a single word in English when he came here. My mom, on the other hand, she grew up in a British colony, so she was
Oh,
forced
okay.
to learn Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. So she had
All
that
three.
advantage when she moved here. But the advantage my dad had was that my dad and his entire immediate family came over here. My mom immigrated here all by herself. So that's her disadvantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. And then so then they met here.
They met in Oakland, California.
In Oakland. Okay. All
and
right.
they got married and had me and my
Had
siblings.
you? Yeah. You all come. You all. Y'all. I was gonna say y'all. But I don't think I've ever said y'all in my life. But
I say y'all
yeah.
all the time, and I'm not from
Okay.
the South.
No. Well, no. I mean, kind of. I mean, well, I don't know. California isn't really the South. I mean, like the South is. You have to. What would you say? You go and you. Would you say New Mexico's the South, or would you
I
say
would
you have to go
say
into
New
Texas?
Mexico and Arizona are the Southwest. I would consider Texas the South.
So would you consider all of Texas the South? Would you consider like West Texas like an armadillo or
Oh, I'm
Amarillo?
not that good with
Ar
Texan
Amar so like if
geography.
or El Paso, like right on the border,
El
like if you get like
Paso, yeah, that's very on
what
the border. I would consider that. Ooh, that is
would that
such
be
a
the
good
South or would
question.
that be the
Good
Southwest?
question.
Yeah, because like I don't know, the South is a weird thing, and then like over here on the East Coast now, like the Mason-Dixon line here, I think is at Maryland, Pennsylvania, which is also a weird thing to think like that. Like the North and South is that, and then like in Ohio and Kentucky, like Cincinnati is on the border. The Cincinnati, like the airport's in Kentucky, so
Mhm.
it's like over on the other side of the Mason-Dixon line, which is weird too. That like that's like
And
almost the South,
then
but
like Kansas City is in Missouri, and then Virginia
yeah,
is, I guess, technically not the South, but it definitely has a different culture compared to the rest of, mid-Atlantic and New England.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Virginia's the South.
Oh, okay,
But it's
Virginia is the South.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, Virginia and Maryland are both the South, which is weird, but it's still like mid-Atlantic. I mean, like if from the Mason-Dixon line, like Civil War, I guess South. But then I would consider the South like Texas,
Louisiana,
Mississippi, Louisiana,
Alabama, Georgia, Florida.
Alabama, Georgia. Well, what do you okay? What do you consider Florida? Would you consider Florida the South, or is Florida kind of its own thing?
Florida is its own thing, but it's the South.
Yeah. You ever go out over there? You ever go out
The
to anywhere in
last
the
time
South?
I was in the South, I visited Nolens, Louisiana in
Oh,
October of 2022.
how was that for you?
That was fun. It was actually my very first solo vacation, and a lot of things went wrong with the hotel, but the actual, activities that I did there were fun,
Yeah.
and I would love to go for Mardi Gras.
What did you do there? What prompted to go like I'm gonna go to Mardi Gras by myself?
Well,
Not
I
Mardi Gras. I'm
went
gonna go to
to
New
New
Orleans, not to Mardi
Orleans
Gras.
because, I mean, New Orleans is poppin' around Halloween, but also there was this BDSM convention, and I have
Cool.
attended BDSM. I mean, I had attended only one BDSM convention prior to the one in New Orleans, but that was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was like, I've never been to New Orleans, and I like BDSM, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to the one in Nolens.
And so then it was and you didn't know you decided you're gonna go on by yourself. Was that something like do you ever do that? Do you ever go to like dinner by yourself or anything?
Oh
Do you
yeah,
go
I love my own
or
company.
you a movie? Do you ever go to a movie by yourself?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice doing those. And so would you do a vacation by yourself again?
Oh yes, I love solo vacations. Okay, don't judge me, but I took a
You
solo
no,
vacation.
stop. You're gonna get judged. You're getting judged here. Nothing but judging. All judging here the rest of the podcast. You're
Well,
being judged
in
starting now.
February, 1 week
Okay.
before my fundraiser, I decided to take a weekend solo vacation to Fresno, California. And
Okay.
Fresno is, I hate to say it, but it is kind of like the laughing stock of California. Even Fresnonians make fun of Fresno, which is a very peculiar thing because when I go there and I'm like talking to cashiers and shopkeepers and whatnot, and I tell them where I'm from, and they're like, oh, they tend to like insult where I came from, and they assume, well, I insult the city where I currently live, therefore it's okay for me to insult the tourist from San Francisco. And I'm like graceful, I'm elegant, and then my friend and I then talk smack when we get back to our car.
There you go.
Like that was so uncalled for. Um,
Yeah.
Like there's this
It-
stereotype that Californians are mean, and it's like normally LA people are the mean ones, but it's like Fresno. Why why are you like bolstering this stereotype that Cali people are mean?
yeah. I is this different Fresno. I'm from Portland, so
Okay.
yeah, right. And you get that.
Portland, Maine or Portland,
Oregon.
Oregon?
Portland, Oregon.
Nice. I went to
Yeah.
Oregon, or yeah, Portland, Oregon in January this year.
How was that?
It was snowy, which was nice because I went to Spokane, Washington in
Oh,
December. No
ooh.
snow. There was snow in
And
Seattle. No snow in Spokane. And I'm like,
that's
what?
weird.
Yeah. But
That's
at least
really
Portland
weird.
had snow. Well, when I talk about Portland snow to other people from Portland, because I got cuddle clients who, moved to San Francisco from Portland, they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's mostly like gray and like icy and not, the fluffy, playful
Right.
kind of snow.
It's dangerous snow. That's why you get this much snow and ice, and then everything is shut down. And they
Hmm.
don't put salt on I think they did for a short while, or they just started it within the last few years, putting salt down when it snows because of the environmental hazards and
Hmm.
with putting salt down. But
I was just
you
happy
know,
to experience snow during the winter. And luckily I did not slip and fall on my butt, but my boyfriend did. And of course he
oh,
did that on like a part of sidewalk that had a bunch of bird poop. And I'm like, oh no.
at at
But it's
least it
kind of
was
funny. It's kind of funny.
bird poop.
Uh,
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a That's a thing. That's a whole nother thing. Uh, I won't get into I won't get into poop talk on sidewalks, but yeah.
how are you gonna
So
segue?
yeah, right. Yeah. How do you segue from poop on the sidewalk to yeah, so let's see. So then back back to I don't want to go, like, I feel like if I go anywhere to you, it's gonna somehow still be to this segue from poop. So I'm gonna go from poop to this pen because it starts with P. So poop to the pen, and the pen also has to do with writing and writing. And what got you writing? How'd you get to writing?
Um, well, I have an account on Medium and an account on Substack, and they're both blogging type of websites, but not in the way that Blogspot was in the early 2000s. It's more of there's a lot of internal traffic. I mean, yeah, I do direct people to Medium or Substack, but there's a lot of internal traffic, which is very helpful because I don't want to have to go ham with marketing for my writing because I'm already, managing a podcast, managing a cuddle business, managing a dance production. I'm like, I need some internal traffic. And so there are some topics that people discuss frequently on Medium, but then rarely on Substack and vice versa. So I think it's good to be on both platforms, and I don't monetize either. Um, but one thing about me is that I make about 95% of what I put on Patreon free and 100% of what I put on Medium and Substack free. I absolutely hate it when I'm researching a super niche topic and the only thing that pops up in the search results of Google is like two Medium articles. So not some academic data analysis, whatever. It's just like one person blogging about what they think of this super esoteric word or concept. And I'm like, okay, well, at least one search result popped up. And then I click on it and then it's like paywalled. I'm like, ah! And so one of the things I hate is when, okay, so I'm not going to say her name, but
But it
there's
rhymes
this
with.
women of color networking podcast. I don't really know what to call it, a collective. I don't really fucks with them because like I just do not agree with their marketing, which is so snarky, but their marketing is,
Fine.
I would argue, bad. Like if you want to join their Facebook group, you have to give them your email. And then, of course, they're just going to automatically sign you up for a newsletter that you didn't really want to sign up for. And I just don't get value out of those types of Facebook groups. And then,
Yeah.
like with their Substack account, so there are a bunch of grants for podcasters who are women of color, which is great. I love scholarships. We should
Yeah.
give more money to underserved communities. But
You should
then
give a lot of podcasters. A lot of
this
podcasters could use grants.
this this person whom I will not say by name, she compiled a list on Substack of a bunch of scholarships specifically for women of color podcasters, and then she paywalled the article. And I'm like, huh, you're gonna
Wow.
paywall that? And then I called her out on Twitter, and then she's like, oh, so you think that women shouldn't get paid for their labor? And I'm like, girl, I have a Patreon. Of course, I think women should get paid for their labor. I just think it's pretty slimy when you know there's a bunch of women who could use a grant for their podcast, but then you paywall the article that has that valuable information.
And so then people who aren't making a lot of money maybe are having to take that money, that little bit of money that they have, pay it to this person that's holding it for a chance to maybe get a payday
Exactly.
from someone else. That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm calling her out. Whoever you are, yeah, yeah, slimy butt.
Don't use Substack for that reason.
Yeah, there you go. So if people want some fucking great content, where are they going to find you and everything else you do on the internet, or how can they work with you?
My name
Better than
is
dog poop.
Felicity Azura. I am on Medium and Substack. The username is exactly the same. On Patreon, my name is Felicity Azura. On TikTok and on Good Pods, my name is Cuddle Felicity. Good Pods is an app kind of like Goodreads where you get to rate and review podcasts, but you could also do it per episode. So say you just want to recommend one episode of a podcast, you can leave a review there. And you can also add friend requests to other podcasters on, wink wink, if you want to add me as a friend on Good Pods.
There you go.
I'm more than happy to add those who interview me as friends on Good Pods. My podcast is called Pro Cuddle Hustle. It's the world's first podcast about professional cuddling, and I have so many interviews that I should edit once this one is over, because I have recently rebranded my podcast where it's less me just talking to myself and more me interviewing other professional cuddlers. And I I am on most social media, but I am most active on TikTok. But I am a co-moderator of the subreddit Professional Cuddling. I think we recently surpassed
Oh,
300 members, so let's aim for another 100. And whenever cuddle clients are like, well, where can I go to talk to, other clients and cuddle therapists in like a non-transactional way, I'm like, go to the subreddit, because we need more members. Oh my goodness. We need a place to commune. We need a forum where we can just talk and share our raw, honest opinions about these cuddle companies, because some websites, they have their own forum, but the moderator sometimes sucks and they will delete your comments even though they were very helpful. So we need like a neutral zone. And for me, that's Reddit.
right. And so would you ever have clients on your show, or is it only the actual worker that you have on the show? Or
I
is it
honestly am open to interviewing a client, but most of them are not comfortable with putting themselves out there. And
kind
that's just,
that
it is what it is.
yeah, kind of figure that would be kind of the way it goes. I think it could be, you might get someone one day who's like, oh yeah, that could be an interesting time. Okay, well, cool. So yeah, thank you for doing this, and I will find you on the Good Pods. Good Pods, and it is the name of the podcast is the Pro
Cuddle Hustle.
Cuddle Hustle.
So one caveat, which this is one of my few criticisms of Good Pods. You need to have your podcast on Apple Podcasts in order to list your own podcast on their platform. And for the longest time, my podcast was not on Apple. So I was
Why
like,
not?
because it just the application process just it was frustrating. Like there are some platforms where they make it very, very, very difficult for you to get
Yeah,
your podcast on their platform.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Apple is one of them. And then I was like, I couldn't find it for a while when I switched my host. And then I was like, why is this so hard? Why am I do I care? Do I care this much about Apple? And then it's like all these people fucking with their iPhones and stuff listen to iTunes. Like, okay, yeah, maybe I should do just get it on Apple and
Hmm.
yeah. But okay, well, cool. Well, yeah, thanks for being on the show. And yeah, well, if you want to come back and maybe like I think I'm gonna take the summer and go. I'm doing a light summer, maybe so maybe like in the fall sometime once because I'm gonna try to do some water parks and stuff and other stuff that people my age do, I guess. But yeah, so maybe in the fall or something, like in September or something, have you back if you're up for it.
Well, I hope
If
you have fun at those water parks.
yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Cool. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day and we'll talk to you later, all right?
Same to you.
All right. Oh, all right, that's Felicity Azura. So uh thank you everyone for listening and being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. Uh check out rustydiamond.net for anything you need. I don't know, hypnosisisgreat.com, and anything else. So thank you everyone so much for being here. And that is the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.